Japanese student Ritsuki Kakuyama gets his ass yeeted by Truck Kun into the isekai world, right after he gets into his dream uni. My guy is reborn in a peasant's house instead of those amazing rich life noble incarnations too, so Truck Kun really had some beef against this guy. His family is pretty trash, and he gets bullied for having black Asian hair as an odd thing in this world. Thankfully, Bro's life comes up a notch the moment the system notification greets him, making him feel like finally he's about to win. Those hopes also get crushed when the system literally calls him an effing nobody loser. With his chances wrecked, he now doesn't have any choice besides grinding his ass off to shave the family debt. Our boy thought that he might excel by becoming the second coming of Da Vinci, or maybe a powerful knight, and one day those dreams come true when he runs into a grizzly bear. Ian and his sister's lives are saved thanks to a mage vaporizing this fat Teletubby. He had no idea what a powerful mage was doing in a village like this, but the woman sparked curiosity in the boy, expressing how she received a prophecy to search for a black-haired boy in the hopes of raising him. Knowing that this boy fit the description of what she was looking for, she gains interest in Ian, while the kid is out here questioning how the hell she managed to one-shot that giant bear. Anyone could become a mage, and that thought gave Ian hope, making him dream if he could one day use magic too. The kind woman assured him that he too, despite being a peasant, can change his fate and become a mage. She even offered to teach him magic, while the boy finally realized that he could reverse his shitty odds by accepting this deal. The mage takes her new student to his little study room, and immediately, Ian meets his first powerful opponent, a heavy textbook containing the absolute basics of magic, titled Moronius. Oh, and by the way, the mage actually formally went to his home to get permission from his parents and even the city lord, just to make sure things don't trouble them later. With the people expecting great things from him, Ian is ready to do his absolute best. She preps him for the first lesson, while the boy's system slowly jots down his progress level as he flips through the book. Moronius reaches a 27% completion rate, and several other heavy textbooks and weird Harry Potter spell names later, the boy eventually hits 99% for his completion rate. Moronius is fully completed. Thus the boy can now utilize the magical language perfectly and understand its usage for the mages. 7 whole years passed, yes, that much of a time skip spent on his education, and somehow this mage baddie looks the same as she was before. She believes their private tutorship has now reached an end. With Ian considerably growing up, it's time for them to take on the next step together. The boy's current and only skill is that he knows the magical language and the ability to manipulate it. In the next scene, we witness mesmerizing mountains with a serene sky, and underneath this beautiful horizon, Ian is getting his ass kicked falling from the sky. He shouts his complaints to his master for going too fast, but it's pretty clear that the teacher is enjoying this a lot. Bro is shaking in fear, expressing that he only learned a damn language in the past 6 years, so it's not like he's a proper mage or anything. His teacher watches him with intrigue, while Bro is practically begging to be saved by someone that high up in the sky. Mage Mommy ushers him to try and hone in on the voices around him, while Bro is out here thinking this psycho might be a schizophrenic because who the hell can listen to voices in a place like this? The only sound he hears right now is one of the rippling wind, but strangely enough, when Ian focuses really hard, he hears whispers and gossips of some entities, who seem to be impressed that a human is actually flying. This takes our boy by surprise, making him wonder if this is supposed to be the indicative voice of Moronius. Having managed to hear those voices, the system expresses that he's unlocked a new skill called air art, allowing him to manipulate wind magic. I just love how Bro's first practical skill is him becoming Superman. After that rigorous training session, his master continues to tease him while laughing at his sorry state. Ian taunts her for having all the fun while he suffers. Her point is actually regarding the state of the mages, who borrow the power of nature's mysteries by actually communicating with them. This is how the magic of this world functions, which takes the boy by surprise. That voice up there, Mage Baddie remarks that it's actually the voice of the wind, and that he needs to hear the voices of other mysteries too. Ian, now with a grip of understanding how magic works, is happy to follow this approach. Pointing at him with seriousness, she tasks his second mission, the understanding of water arts. As you can guess, Bro is sent to drown on his ass and become Michael Phelps or practically die in the sea. He can't even communicate with the rippling water, barely holding it together. Next, his teacher tasks him to take on frost arts, and so he's sent to have a cold plunge in the middle of fucking Antarctica, where his balls are freezing. By this point, his teacher is quite hopeful, and pretty much impressed with Bro's learning speed. Meanwhile, our boy on the other hand is questioning his existence, and barely keeping up with things. Without seizing the momentum, this psycho mage baddie snaps her fingers to cast the flames of hell right before Ian. Our boy knows that right after freezing his balls, this woman is about to burn them too. He begs his master for mercy, but like always, hears the sound of flames sparking intrigue in the young human. The first question the flames ask is if they can burn him with glee, and well, you can just imagine our boy's reaction because Bro knows he's cooked, literally. By the next scene, we enter the caverns, where Ian is meant to gain an understanding of earth arts, the final task so far. The voice of the earth is actually quite soothing, rambling about some wisdom like Master Oogway or something. Even our boy is confused and doesn't get what the hell he just heard, which makes him wonder if he currently lacks the ability to comprehend or understand earth arts. Bro takes it as a sign of relief and exits the area, when suddenly, the system pops another notification, sharing how he's earned skill points as a bonus. These points can help increase his magic proficiency. 100 of them are available right now. This pretty much confirms to Ian that he's a damn cheater in this world because no way is he getting this stuff for free. Obviously, since Earth is the lacking element right now, he decides to upgrade more by tapping on the screen. Soon after he points at it, the screen pulses with a blinding blue. At this point, the voice of the earth commands him, expressing that lava sits just underneath, and that if he's not careful, an earthquake could occur and cause this lava to erupt to the surface. Ian now understands what this voice is trying to say. His goal is to just get the hell out of here and confirm to his master that he heard the voice of the mystery. First, Ian commands fire to burn, creating himself light to navigate things. This time, a different voice shrieks in pain, expressing its anger for the light. Ian tries to strike a chat with it, questioning if this is also the voice of the earth. However, this element is different. It's not an element that his own master told him about. Because you see, the only thing that truly hates light is the voice of darkness. And that is what this mystery is. Ian is startled. While outside, his master is looking into her schedule, realizing that she might have to attend an upcoming pyromancer conference. Out comes her student with haste. She congratulates Ian for succeeding at last, while he shares another exciting news of having made contact with the shadows of darkness. This revelation actually leaves Mage Baddie's jaw wide open, because clearly she didn't anticipate him connecting with the dark. It makes her question if he truly made contact with such a cowardly mystery, and her silence brings Ian concern. She addresses the boy, sharing that they need to make their descent down the mountain. The boy is happy to do that, curious where their next adventure will be. But it seems that Ian has misunderstood her words, because you see, his master means something completely different. She declares that they will officially be parting ways from here. Pointing to her left, she suggests that he head to the Chronoleak, where he will soon attend the Spacetime Sorcerer Conference, because if he is destined to learn such arts, then he'll also have the fortune of running into a competent spacetime sorcerer there too. Bro is baffled, because all of a sudden he's being told to learn a completely new thing relating to spacetime. Watching his confusion makes her happy. Eldith reflects that the young boy was born with a natural affinity for discovering mysteries, and based on her gut feeling, she can tell that he'll be capable of wielding the power of spacetime too. With that, their contact wraps up. Eldith is excited to meet him after 3 years in Dranheim. In the next scene, we introduce ourselves to the region that she told him about. This town is pretty rural looking, though the people are bustling about. Ian is looking for the conference that his master told him about. He still thinks that woman is unpredictable as hell for sending him here. One man among the crowd appears to be a travel guide, ready to help anyone travel north. Ian recalls that his master told him the conference would be held in the north, and since he's free to travel, our boy thinks it's a good opportunity for him to leave right away. In the next scene, we have a bunch of people settling down for a camp. Among those people, Ian is also seated. One of those men, the man who called him earlier, is the merchant guild master, Leek. Leek asks if it's the boy's first time heading north, to which Ian confirms that he's only going there because something came up. The older man hears this and comments that the boy probably has no idea about Dragon Mountain then. Ian expresses his confusion, because apparently this drake is supposed to be teeming with gorgeous yet dangerous black drakes. These drakes are not easy to fend off. Leek acts buddy-buddy with the kid, and asks if he at least knows how to fight or run. Ian isn't comfortable with this dude, but he answers that he's not really confident. Immediately, the seemingly kind man turns on him and calls our boy useless, questioning his profession. With much shame, the boy shares that he's a mage. I don't know what happens to Leek, because he shakes in shock and calls the boy a lord mage. Overhearing their conversation, a girl is drawn to the boy. This cloaked girl turns around to see what's going on, while the other men are still confused, even shocked that this kid is supposed to be a mage. Ian genuinely doesn't get why these people are so stunned, because his little revelation has shifted the environment completely. As if revering his abilities, Leek quickly turns into a subordinate and grabs the bowl, happy to serve the boy seconds. Even though Ian declines the offer, this man charges over to the food server to fetch him a new bowl anyway. More and more people begin to chat about Ian's status as a mage. Some of them even doubt his ability, believing that his appearance makes him look like a third-rate weakling guy who doesn't know what he's talking about. These haters are hating hard on our guy, thinking he ain't got all that, while Ian is a nice kid who doesn't pay them any mind. The girl from earlier who took interest in him decides to talk to him, whispering that if he's truly a mage, then the boy should try to use some spell and show these guys who's actually boss. It may seem like the assertive approach and a forceful one. Ian doesn't really get the point though. The girl explains that typically, mercenaries are known for making fun of quiet people, treating them as timid or weak. That's why it's necessary for such people to show their powers and intimidate others who doubt their strength. Because if Ian can simply do that, he will show them who's the top dog, and the mercenaries will automatically become his subordinates, willing to protect him in any trouble. The idea is a bit new to Ian, who understands where the girl is coming from, yet doesn't get what he's supposed to do in this situation. Because first of all, bro doesn't exactly have the experience of getting angry at people before. While this conversation is happening, the dude sitting around serving the food actually spits in Ian's bowl before coating it around with a leaf. This disrespect actually pisses our boy off, who can't believe that this fucker had the audacity to spit on his food. All of a sudden, the ground trembles, making the server realize that he messed up. Ian goes up to the bastard and addresses them with a powerful presence, questioning how dare he spit in his plate like that. The server is wetting his pants in fear, so he quickly submits in terror, apologizing to the Lord Mage for his heinous actions. Pissing him off even more, the server states that he just wanted to polish the plate. Ian is furious that this guy's best idea of polishing a plate is to first spit in it. The man argues that water is actually dirty, so it would have been worse. Ian doesn't really understand the meaning behind such a statement, questioning his logic. So the server explains thoroughly how water is actually full of mud and parasites. That's why he doesn't really wash plates with water. And my god, bro, it's the worst reasoning ever because this man actually believes his spit is cleaner in comparison. The sentence traumatizes Ian, haunting him for the rest of the night. Bro is out here going crazy, completely turned to stone in front of the mercenaries and the servers, because this medieval age actually has no sense of hygiene at all. Frustrated, Ian coldly mutters a spell, casting the might of the flames to erupt from the nearby campfire. These flames reach heights taller than the surrounding humans, intimidating them and surprising the girl who gave him the suggestion. Maintaining his assertive tone, Ian orders them to quickly fetch some damn water, berating them for a bunch of dirty medieval bastards. Both men run full speed away to fetch the water, not knowing what they really even did wrong to begin with. In the next scene, we find the calm night. It appears that everyone is off to sleep, except the mercenaries are on a search for Kathy, the girl they can't find. One horny bastard wants Kathy all to himself, because his medieval 1-inch stick is acting up at 3 a.m. In the distance, he manages to find her, so the horn dog calls out to Kathy, urging her to come to him. Suddenly, the man notices that Kathy is actually knocked out. She's been abducted by a bunch of bandits. The mercenaries shout at the bandits, but their whole macho act fails when one of them is suddenly killed with an arrow piercing his chest. The mercenaries roar their anger for these aggressors to kill one of their comrades. They quickly bolt into action, aiming to fight these guys off and even kill them. The leader of this unknown group treats them like a bunch of small insects, but it's here when Kathy actually wakes up again and starts biting the grab out of this dude's back. The guy is forced to throw her down because he couldn't risk his arm getting chopped off with Goku's secret biting technique. Kathy struggles to run away, while the leader commands his men to quickly chase after the target as she's running away. While all of this is happening, our boy is sleeping in his tent with the same haunting memories, realizing that these medieval assholes actually use spit for cleaning. The commotion outside quickly wakes him up from his nightmare. A mysterious voice calls out to him to get up fast. My guy senses the aura of the surrounding atmosphere, before actually hearing the sounds of the mercenaries running to him. Leek is the first among them, calling out to the Lord Mage and explaining that they're in deep trouble. In the next scene, our boy reaches the fight zone, where these mercenaries are battling it out against the bandits. The leader is actually the strongest one of them, cutting the mercenaries with his sword like it's no big deal. In fact, he wants all his men to cut these guys down without mercy, and then also search for the missing woman. Kathy, their target, is currently hiding behind the tree nearby. She shrinks in horror, not knowing what she should do, because at the current rate of things, she'll be caught in no time. While she's hiding about, one guy actually comes up to expose her location, confirming her worst horrors of being found. With a blade to her face, the guy threatens to chop off her arm if she doesn't quickly get on her feet. Kathy, terrified, sulks in horror knowing that her life is now over. Before she could even stand, this merciless scumbag raises his sword to cut her down. But at that exact moment, something hits him with enough striking force that even the ground ruptures underneath from the impact. Kathy is speechless, while her savior stands right behind her. Ian casted his spell and arrives at the right moment. She looks at him with wonder, while he grabs her hand and instructs the girl to stay close to him. His confidence comforts her, while the rest of the group also bands together like a train and stands behind the Lord Mage. It looks funny, but it's actually methodical, because Ian has a spell. He chants open, like Sukuna's furnace technique, but instead of fire, this man gathers the might of darkness and lightning focused into one sphere. The surrounding mercenaries as well as the bandits take notice of this spell, and in mere moments the entire region is shrouded in black. Not being able to see a thing, they worriedly cast their torches, but besides that small inference of light, nothing is visible. These guys start bumping into each other in the dark as if the power went out, but while they're struggling, Ian's train formation helps his own group. He trails ahead with confidence while they follow him, and using this technique, he thinks they should make it out easily. The current skill he's using is one of the shadow arts, paired with his dark vision attribute to see stuff in the dark. Unfortunately, bad confidences also end up happening, because one of the assailants ends up bumping into Leek, causing trouble. This is bad as the guy quickly raises his sword to cut them down with what little chance he has. The man at the front, Leek, is frightened for his life, begging to be spared. He's a helpless old man, so Ian has to swoop in with the casting of his fire burn incantation. Remember when he used it to just light a torch earlier? Well, this time Bro literally uses the torch to engulf this dude's face, burning him alive. After becoming burnt steak, Bro hits the ground, scaring the crap out of the other bandits. The man they're facing is no joke, and even Ian understands that this display of power should be enough to scare the others to run for their own lives. Just as he expected, a sudden panic is caused. The bandits want to flock around and run away, but their leader refuses to let them go anywhere, roaring that they charge ahead. Despite Bro's confidence, it's not like anything different was going to happen, because unexpectedly, one of the Black Drakes arrives, surprising him by chomping their leader's head off. Now that's a gruesome death, one that instills the fear of death in the remaining party members. But that's not all. Even our boy is terrified, because the situation has gotten much more complicated with the arrival of this flesh-eating behemoth. The curious beast playfully stares at the other humans while chomping down one of their own, like a predator who has found an entire group of prey to devour. The remaining bandits run off afraid, but fear runs wild in Ian's party too. Leek stutters, pointing the mage's attention to the Drake. Despite our boy's competence as a mage, he doesn't have the experience of dealing with someone as powerful as this Drake. Even Ian understands that they're headed towards total destruction, while the system remarks that they're facing an encounter with one of the primordial mysteries. This helps him automatically unlock a new skill called summoning, allowing Ian to communicate and summon other life forms. It seems like a convenient ability considering his chances against this monstrous beast, but it also makes our boy wonder if the beast before him is no different than all the mysteries that he already has encountered. They were all different elements, but if he can only communicate with this creature, they might survive. Despite his hesitation, Ian takes his chances and calls out to the Drake, who eyes him down with blood trickling down his mouth. Leek and the others genuinely think they're about to get sent to hell even with Ian protecting them, while the mage patiently stares down at the beast who growls before him in an effort to intimidate the human. Mustering some confidence in his ability, Ian continues to communicate, knowing that all this time, none of the mysteries ever dared to betray his efforts. The mage introduces himself, but in the most corniest way imaginable, expressing that he's a friend of the Drake. Yup, it seems that he must have learned Talk no Jutsu from Naruto during his 7-year time skip too. Anyway, the Drake is baffled and so is Bro's party. Ian literally holds a sign up in his head to explain that friends are not supposed to fight each other. But I think Bro is forgetting the fact that this thing literally chomped down a dude fresh in its mouth. The creature growls back, making the others question what it's saying to the mage. Ian's face displays confidence, but the freaking hilarious part is that not even he understands what this thing is trying to tell him, so he's just as lost as the others. Right now, he's got absolutely no chance at communication, so he spends the remaining points buffing his skills, dumping all of them into his summoning stats with the chance of communication. After increasing his summoning stat, our boy can finally understand the Drake's language, which gives him a chance to speak to him. Ian confirms once more if it's true by calling out to the Drake, but in his attempt, he infuriates the beast, causing him to roar in his face for wasting his time. Ian's party is shitting bricks, while he holds it together and gathers his words for a conversation. First, he explains that he shares no intention of fighting the monster, but the Drake responds that it would be foolish to even entertain such an idea of fighting him. Ian assures him that he knows that, and that he'll lose right away if they even try to attack him. He actually plays it along with the arrogance of the Drake, making it seem like it would be a waste of time for them to fight the great beast. The prideful Drake takes it that the humans are begging for mercy. Leek and the others take it that they're communicating through communication while Kathy waits patiently. The Drake roars that it would indeed be pointless to try and kill the rest of the weaklings, which is exactly what our boy wants. Ian is starting to think this negotiation is favoring them. One small problem, the beast roars that he's in a pretty shitty mood right now, implying that he's got no plans of letting them go. Ian's party is on their knees begging for their lives, while our boy questions what he's even gonna do anymore. Ian takes it as a sign that the Drake is telling him to get lost, and that he doesn't really have any choice except duke it out against the beast with a direct approach. Fighting isn't what he means here, because the mage suddenly turns into a therapist and asks the Drake why he's in such a sour mood. Still angered, the beast shouts that he doesn't have any motivation to tell a human that. Ian counters that he wants to offer some assistance to help alleviate Drake's mood. His offer appears arrogant to the creature, who thinks that it's pointless for a human who can't even do anything. In response, the mage mutters a bunch of words in the magical language, casting the water to soar up and sprinkle around. The sight appears strange to the party, even stranger to the beast, while Ian surrounds himself with mystical aura. Intrigued with this sudden display of magic, the beast now takes full interest in the boy. Ian emphasizes that he's nothing more than a humble mage trying to communicate with the mysteries of the world. That's why he just wants to help the Drake with whatever he can do. Seeing that the beast hasn't yet anything to say in anger, Ian knows that he's in the zone. The next step is where the real negotiation actually begins. We cut to the next scene. Midnight falls upon them. The bloodlust of the Drake is no more, and he's more open for a talk. Our boy is just happy that he managed to delay immediate death for him and the rest of his friends. But the real issue comes in the form of fulfilling the requirements. Ian figures his options, understanding that the Drake has all the leverage here, which means the mage has to be the one to make simple demands. A sudden memory of his master plagues his memory. She once told him that the mastery of magic is straight up impossible without a mastery of communication. It's the same reason why building a relationship with the mysteries is essential. Friends or not, every mystery contains its own kind of nature, their temperament. The job of a mage is to identify and empathize with such natures, going along the hearts of the mysteries. In other words, Ian learned that social navigation is a critical skill for a mage, and in a life-threatening situation like this, he has the perfect opportunity to prove himself as someone who can swindle a Drake out of a murderous mood. In order to achieve this goal, he calls for the skill window first. The system shows him a skill called Expert Summoning Management, which is basically everything our boy needs for the current trouble. Normally, this may seem like the quickest choice, but our boy takes his time and finds it really strange that the skill involves feeding the Drake some high-quality liquor. Ian is sweating bullets the more he reads this damn system's notes, because the next step requires glazing the shit out of the mysteries he's talking to. Long story short, the most helpful advice bro got from the system is to just use alcohol and become one of those simps that glaze e-thoughts on Twitter. Ian submits in defeat, realizing that this kind of task is impossible for a loner like him, while even the Drake is left questioning what the hell this dude is trying to do. Strengthening his resolve, our boy thinks that he should start off by reaching the creature's heart, as it's the only way for him to make any progress. Ian addresses the Drake, expressing that he's actually prepared a mighty gift for the glorious beast. Curious about the gift, the beast desires that he bring it forth at once. Next, Ian calls Leek, who is startled by the sudden command. Bro quickly tells this old fart to fetch the strongest liquor they have right this moment. Moments later, the man returns with the most exquisite and premium-looking box of liquor, presenting it before the Drake. The monster doesn't exactly get the purpose of this gift. Even Ian is internalizing his anger, pissed off that this monster is so ungrateful. But on the outside, my guy plays it cool and explains that it's a very precious gift in the human world. Pouring the beast a huge cup, he presents it to the monster. The Drake smells it at first, finding it a peculiar scent. The beast erupts with anger, questioning if this man is about to pull some kind of fishy 3000 IQ move on him to betray the monster. Ian's party is frightened, but my man continues with his poker face and assures the Drake that no fishy business is going on. To prove his words, my guy chugs down the whole mug without any problems. Even his party is a little shocked that he went ahead and did all that. Ian shakes it off, acting like nothing happened, but deep down, he's stunned with how strong this thing is. The Drake is a little upset that the liquor smells pretty bad, so it plugs its nose to avoid it. The mage assures him that it'll help him feel better if he just let it give it a try. The monster stares it down. The tiny little mug surely couldn't do anything to him. With forwardness, it lets its tongue out to get a small taste, while Ian's party prays for their good. Suddenly, the Drake turns into a squirming little girl. Clearly, he didn't expect such an outcome, and though he doesn't find the taste pleasant, for a wild beast like him, the substance feels addicting. Finding that perfect lead, Ian shares that the beast should try this other one too. So the night goes by and this thing is literally drunk as hell swallowing so much liquor. The Drake is in a giddy mood and has found a new addiction to liquor, but our boy's questioning how the hell this bastard is still alive after drinking 7 whole barrels down the drain. Ian and Drake have become besties, with both of them discovering how heavy of a drinker this beast is. Earlier, our boy had planned that he would escape while this big bad lizard was asleep, but that's gonna work anytime soon. Instead, Ian is chugging down the same liquor himself, when suddenly, the Drake calls out the mage for his earlier request to discover why he was in a bad mood. The drunken Drake weeps and gets all teary like a sentimental schoolgirl, confusing our boy. Apparently, the Drake is annoyed that his nest is in a bad location, a harsher location compared to the others. Despite that, his partner told him that she felt at peace, and well, bro's weeping over his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Ian comes out reflecting how in the flying fudge this ugly-looking Drake managed to secure a girlfriend while he doesn't even have one. The creature wallows in pain, expressing how his partner eventually started getting teased by the rest. It made him feel guilty on her behalf, and in his anger, bro broke up with his own girlfriend. It's hilarious because Mr. Tough Guy's roar hilariously wakes up Leek and the others from their sleep, and then also puts them back to bed by reaping their souls. Well, Ian can understand this feeling. The Drake is feeling the loss of a lover no differently than a human. At the same time, a plan comes to his mind to change things for the better. He calls out to the beast, explaining that he could use magic to fix that wretched nest. The monster is shaken with this support. Ian chimes in and asks for something in return, asking for one simple favor. By next morning, Ian walks about, while Leek is still daydreaming some shitty romantic dream. Our boy taps this timid clown's head, and actually gets triggered that this old fart isn't waking up. Ian threatens to snap his finger out if he doesn't wake up right away. Bro looks at him with the most JoJo-ass GigaChat expression ever. His glare terrifies Leek, causing him to shout and wake up, while the rest of the group also topples down because of him. All this time, Ian has been pulling their asses together on a cart, because soon after that dragon let out a roar, they all fainted on the spot. Kathy thinks she made a mistake tagging along with these guys, while the others ask if the Drake already went into its nest. They hug each other in comfort, scared that the monster will come out at any moment and slaughter them. Ian assures them that the dragon is at its nest, waiting for his arrival. He's already made a deal with the creature to help save the lives of his friends. Just hearing that makes these clowns suddenly turn into his #1 fans, while Ian is left wondering if he should have left them to die. Back then, he told the monster that he'd fix his nest in exchange for the lives of these people. Hearing those words, Leek and the others chant the name of the brilliant archmage, honoring him. Our boy doesn't get where this is all coming from, because apparently these guys are under the impression that the mage actually beat up the big bad dragon for them, and after scolding the creature, he sent it back to its nest, before forcing the creature to surrender to his mercy. These losers are ecstatic with a wave of emotion coming over them. They want to serve this man for the rest of their lives. Ian is just annoyed and orders them to be ready to depart without ditching him by the time he's back. They agree to this command, expressing that they're united as one, and soon after, Leek asks them to check on the number of mercenaries they have on them. Kathy notices this, and for some reason is observant of her surroundings. Let's cut to the part where the dragon takes our boy to his nest. It's a rocky little setting. Ian expresses his shock, causing the dragon to jump his ass for acting like it's unsolvable. Our boy clarifies that it's not unfixable at all, it's just that he's sleepy, and bro's stamina is at an all-time low. Ian just wants to quickly get done with things so he doesn't get bogged down later. His objective is to simply push back protruding rocks and create more space here. Focusing himself, he communicates with the calm Earth, who talks back to the human. Ian asks for a favor, and immediately the Earth declines, stating that it's busy. Bro realizes that this thing is not happy with him at all, while the anxious dragon wants immediate updates. The mage explains that the Earth isn't even listening to him, so he's going to try again when its mood improves. He has an understanding that the Earth is going to be angrier, even if he makes a second request, while the dragon argues that if that's how things are, then it just can't be helped. Instead of getting angry with the mage, the dragon actually thanks Ian to actually give it a shot for someone miserable like him. Even our boy gets in his feelings, while the dragon asks him for his name. Ian introduces himself, so the beast also introduces itself by name, Longtail. He wants the two of them to be friends, so our boy holds its paw, creating a new bond and confirming the summoning requirement of this beast. The system assures him that our boy can use the monster anytime he wants, but even then, he feels shitty for being unable to do anything about his friend. The beast calls out to the human, expressing that they should at least celebrate their friendship, and for that, he offers as much gold as he wants to take. It's freaking insane that this thing has that much jewels on him, and he's happy to give it all away to one human. Ian inspects one of the jewels, wincing that if only Earth was willing to give him a chance, things would have been different. But then, after inspecting one of the jewels, our boy experiences a sudden shock. He turns over to Longtail and asks if it's fine for him to scribble on the floor. The beast is confused and allows him the opportunity. Moments later, Ian carves up a gorgeous magic circle with a jewel as its heart. This is the same method his master taught him, a method used to convince a mystery by using magic circles. Longtail has no idea what this mage is trying to do, while our boy assures him that this is going to be good. This time, he calls out to the Earth once more, urging her to move the rocks and smoothen the walls for him. Interestingly, the jewel on the circle reacts with a strong light, and indeed the walls start to move in accordance to the desire of the mage. Longtail is blinded by the light, but by the time he gazes back at his nest, it is gorgeously crafted into this divine masterpiece. Ian expresses that it's his return present as a friend, while this little dragon is ready to burst into tears. The lair goes metal as hell and it even smells amazing. Longtail questions if this too is the beauty of magic and holds the human hand. This time, the dragon won't have any shame presenting his new lair to his girlfriend, and even the children they'll have will feel safe. Ian didn't ask for the extra information, but he's happy to help, except a reverse effect of his technique fires back on him. His body shivers and he experiences a sudden headache, and before he can comprehend what's going on, the mage quickly faints before the dragon after bleeding from his nose. In other words, my guy fried his own brain for this technique, and he doesn't even have a reversed curse technique to heal his brain like Gojo Satoru. Panicking, the dragon comforts his buddy, who is still gasping heavy breaths. The beast has no idea what to do, when suddenly Kathy roars for her friend and comes rushing towards him. The dragon is a little confused while she's frightened for her life, thinking that he's about to eat her. She stops dead in her tracks, while the dragon looks at her with the glare of death, thinking that she might be some kind of enemy. Kathy trembles and softens up, expressing that she's here for a conversation. Then she begins chanting the same stupid signs that our boy made earlier to paint the picture that she's a friend. With much difficulty, the beast ends up understanding what she means. They both look towards Ian, who is still in a pretty rough shape and barely managing about. By night, our boy is brought underneath the night sky. When he gets back up, he instinctively reaches for his phone as if he were still on Earth. Hilariously, instead of holding his phone, the dude ends up holding this chick's hand, before questioning how the heck his phone turned so soft or turned into a gummy. The squishy soft sensation genuinely doesn't make any sense, until Kathy directly asks if he's awake, because bro is doing some really sus shit right now. Ian, now flustered, embarrassingly jumps out of her lap, confused as to what the hell she's doing here. At first, my guy thinks he's the one dreaming, but she explains that she was covering for him after he hit his head. The ringing headache still bothers him, while she advises him to try and rest. You see, Ian is only piecing together the fact that he straight up collapsed, and throughout the night, he forced certain evolutions without getting himself to adapt. Kathy looks at him confused, while he's out here questioning if she managed to overhear everything. Bro's genuinely embarrassed and covers his face like a mess. The question of Longtail arrives, but apparently that overgrown lizard left, making our boy wonder if he's out to chase his girl. He apologizes to Kathy for causing her trouble, and asks how she managed to even come here with Longtail guarding the place. She explains that she somehow found a way to communicate they were friends. Bro finds it difficult to believe and wonders if she used mage language. He's pretty sleepy and doesn't have all the answers, while Kathy shares that she willingly followed him even when she knew the risks. It's actually because she has stuff to ask of the mage. First off, Kathy feels guilty over the attack that happened last night, because she's the one responsible for it. Ian seems surprised, and she apologizes straight away for putting them in so much trouble. Our boy understands that things got shaky and heavy way too fast, making him realize why she was trembling that hard. Ian theorizes that she must have some kind of beef with the bandit while she's offended at the suggestion. Bro is even willing to state that her face looks like a bandit, but Kathy decides to go vulnerable with him to reveal a huge secret. Ian expects this to be a corny plot twist, like her being some kind of princess of a country. In reality, she drops a bombshell that her real name is Lucy of the Tarian family. She's a noble. The bandits were sent on behalf of her fiancé. Ian then suspects that it might be some kind of bratty lover's quarrel like it always happens. Kathy is upset with his trashy assumptions, sharing that she intended to disappear far away from her fiancé's control. However, she lost the confidence to escape ever since the events that occurred yesterday. Grasping his hand, she begs him to help her escape. Ian is a little overpowered with her suddenness, questioning what she's even running away from, or if it's really that bad. The girl emphasizes that her family, the Tarians, are a baronial house that govern the Fianlep region. Except because they had a shortage of knights to defend them, they were constantly at risk of being attacked. Because of that, a territorial war was always looming over them, threatening the very destruction of their family. In haste, she was married off to a knight who was once a mercenary captain as means to control the situation. Because this man had insane influence in his mercenary team at the time he was active, all the threats posing their family vanquished. Things seemed fine at first. The guy seemed okay with his position as the son-in-law of the Tarian family, but then things collapsed quickly. He went mad in the thirst for power, thinking that he could do anything. This guy even picked up random women, treating her with utter disregard and hate. Things had gotten to a really terrible point, causing her parents to demand a breakup of the engagement. However, things did not work out for them well either, and with a heavy heart, she reveals how this bastard poisoned her parents. Ian is shaken by this revelation, while the helpless girl shares how this scumbag thought he'd lose the power, so he made his point by poisoning her family. Even our boy thinks this dude is a generational shithead for doing all of that, while Lucy reasons that the guy will forever remain a commoner, which is why he's forcibly trying to inherit the family's name and rank. She only managed to escape thanks to the help of a servant, refusing to marry that man, but she knows that he'll keep coming after her. Her one true desire, as a helpless little girl with no one to turn to, is that Ian help her reach safety and escape him. The mage understands her situation too well. Our boy can feel the kind of violent figure this man truly is for taking such lengths, so much so that he's willing to kidnap his own fiancée. It's a complicated affair, and though he has no idea how these medieval processes affect his work, he can empathize with her. Lucy begs him, pleads with him on the behalf of her family, hoping to reward him with anything. Still, one question bothers our boy: why him? Because he could always betray her too. Lucy fires back that she's got nowhere to turn, because nothing is worse than that man. She's even willing to offer him everything for the freedom in return. In fact, this woman is so desperate she's ready to help him take the rank of a noble by becoming a part of the Tarian family, even though later there comes an offer from a little princess saying that she would marry someone common and a farmer's boy like him, and this is truly an incredible chance for a farmer's son to become connected with the nobility in a world like this. Ian still cannot decide what he truly wants for himself. If that happens, he would become part of the nobility, but he would no longer remain the disciple of Elidith and would not live the life of a mage the way he always wants to. Maybe that kind of life would still be fine for him. And on the other hand, it could also become a good way for him to live as a nobleman while dealing with politics and power. Right now, he stands at a crossroads regarding his destiny and the kind of person he truly wants to become, whether he should live as a nobleman or continue as a mage. Still, he is born into a fantasy world for a reason, so he believes he should use this opportunity to push his magic to its absolute limits. By helping Lucy, he should be able to gain experience as a mage, while also earning enough money to support himself with stable expenses. Because of that, he decides that from now on, he will drive away all the kidnappers and simply allow everything else to follow its natural course. He clears his throat and tells Kathy that she should probably ask someone who can use a sword far better than him, because a mage is not exactly a warrior, and he cannot do much for her during moments of danger. Even so, he still agrees to help her as long as she is willing to pay him, and after that, everything that happens will depend on him. Kathy immediately bursts into tears of joy and becomes deeply grateful for his help. She throws her arms around Ian, and Ian feels a wave of sympathy for her as he quietly allows her to cry her heart out against him. Meanwhile, Drake is lazily sunbathing when Ian and Kathy finally step out of his cave. Drake instantly becomes excited when he sees his friend again, and he happily tells Ian that he looks good. Ian responds by saying that they are heading down the mountain because everyone is waiting for them below. Hearing this, Drake says that both of them should climb onto his back because he will take them there himself. Ian jumps onto him without even hesitating, but Kathy remains nervous and uncertain for a moment. Drake then calls her Ian's girlfriend and tells her to climb on as well, but Kathy completely misunderstands his words and immediately begins trembling in embarrassment, while Ian quickly explains that things are not like that and that the two of them are not together. Drake still does not seem convinced because to him they honestly look like a cute couple. Kathy remains confused by the entire situation, but Ian tries to calm her confusion and asks her to climb on behind him. Seeing Ian in that moment looking nothing less than a true hero, she finally decides to trust him. She climbs onto Drake and wraps her arms tightly around Ian. At the same time, the merchants are arguing among themselves while speaking to Leek. Some of them insist that they should pack their belongings and leave immediately, because they believe the dragon must have already killed Ian by now, and staying any longer would only put them in danger. However, the merchants are divided, and both sides keep arguing over completely different choices. One side wants to stay and wait for the powerful mage, while the other side desperately wants to leave and head somewhere safe. Leek thinks silently for a while before finally opening his eyes and declaring that he gave Ian his word that he would wait for him, and because of that promise he is going to stay no matter what happens. The merchant who supports his decision immediately shouts with joy after hearing that they are staying. However, only 10 minutes later, a group of bandits suddenly attacks them. The bandits capture everyone and aggressively demand to know where the girl traveling with them is located. Leek becomes confused and asks what girl they are talking about, but one of the bandits explains that they mean a beautiful young woman with dark blue hair and warns Leek that pretending to know nothing will not save him from the situation. Leek suddenly realizes that they are talking about Kathy, but when everyone turns around, they discover that she has not been near them for quite some time. The bandits immediately assume that all of them are lying and begin threatening to kill everyone while the terrified merchants scream in fear. Then suddenly Leek realizes that their protector and savior Ian has returned. Everyone quickly turns around and sees Drake charging toward them at incredible speed while Ian and Kathy ride on top of him. One of the bandits nervously asks if the woman riding there is the girl they are supposed to capture, but panic already begins spreading among them because the creature is rushing toward them at terrifying speed. The moment they finally realize that it is not a dragon but a drake, they immediately abandon everything and run for their lives. Once the bandits are finally gone, Leek is deeply grateful that Kathy is safe, although he is also furious because if it had not been for Ian, she would have ended up in terrible danger with all the bandits and the people hunting her down. One of the merchants asks how those men even managed to discover Kathy's whereabouts in the first place, but that mystery has to wait for another time because none of them understand how the pursuers began tracking her the moment they arrived. None of them can understand how people who follow the same heavenly god church can be so cruel either. Hearing the church's name makes Ian pause because he has not heard it in ages, yet he knows it is one of the great religions of the world, and its doctrine strictly forbids enslaving fellow believers. Even so, human traffickers and criminals have ignored those commandments for years and continued selling and exploiting people anyway. More importantly, even after witnessing a mage and seeing Drake with their own eyes, those bandits still refuse to abandon their pursuit of Lucy. Ian realizes that he is dealing with desperate and stubborn people who are willing to risk everything for money, and that thought unsettles him because at this rate, they will eventually track Lucy down for sure. That possibility terrifies him because he knows he cannot handle a large group of enemies all at once. Because of that, he asks Drake for a favor, and Drake instantly agrees without hesitation. Ian asks him to drive away the men from earlier, and if necessary, even kill them. Drake's eyes sparkle with mischief the moment he hears that. because he is eager to do anything for his new friend. Without wasting another second, he rushes off to deal with the pursuers. Ian understands that killing people is terrible, yet this is a medieval fantasy world where killing and being killed are parts of everyday life, and if he wants to survive in this world, then he has to adapt to it as well. Suddenly his head begins spinning again because he once more overuses the Moronius language. Kathy immediately rushes to his side and grabs him before he can collapse onto the ground, begging him not to push himself so hard. Leek notices the scene instantly, and his eyes practically sparkle with mischief as he starts teasing them and asking whether they are dating. Both Ian and Kathy react with complete horror at the idea, which only makes Leek grin even wider. Soon after that, they continue their journey once again. And during the trip, Ian repeatedly receives notifications informing him that Drake has eliminated another human. By the end, he receives 11 separate notifications in total. He admits to himself that it is surprisingly convenient that the magic automatically reports back to him, although it frustrates him that he cannot openly summon Drake in front of everyone else. Suddenly, Drake contacts him through telepathy and announces proudly that he has driven away every suspicious person he could find. Ian thanks him sincerely for protecting them, but Drake simply replies that he only did what would make his friend happy. Then Drake asks whether Ian is truly leaving because he hates saying goodbye, though he admits that this is farewell for now. Ian understands that Drake cannot leave the mountain range, and that realization saddens him because it means they may not see each other again for a long time. Drake thanks him once more for everything he has done, but before ending their conversation, he suddenly brings up the mystery of the phoenix. Naturally, Ian becomes interested immediately. Eventually, they arrive at the Riverville, and Ian keeps thinking about Drake's words regarding the phoenix. Rumors claim that an ice phoenix lives somewhere within the northern mountains, and Ian feels an intense urge to see it for himself. According to legend, a phoenix is a creature that never truly disappears after death and possesses the ability to change through every attribute, including fire, ice, wind, and even stone. It is known as a monster with extraordinary adaptability to any environment, and Ian quietly wonders if it might somehow be possible to create one. As they reach the gates, Leek and the merchants announce that they intend to meet the lord of the village and ask Ian and Kathy whether they would like to accompany them. Ian immediately decides against it because if Lucy wants to escape safely, then staying away from powerful nobles and high-ranking officials is probably the smartest option. Because of that, he says that the two of them plan to rest at an inn before continuing their travels. Instantly, the merchants begin teasing Ian and Kathy again, and this time Kathy happily plays along by claiming that she is exhausted as well. She even clings to Ian in such a convincing way that Leek immediately starts shipping them once more and nearly blushes from excitement. After separating from the merchants, Kathy admits that pretending to be with Ian has made things much easier because it keeps annoying people from bothering her, although Ian is far less enthusiastic about the arrangement. He then asks why she behaves so politely toward commoners when he himself is nothing more than a farmer's son. Kathy replies honestly that she admires him now and sees no reason to treat him poorly. Ian thinks about her words for a moment and realizes that he also wants to remain approachable and kind no matter what happens, while Kathy silently admires how naturally polite Ian is and wishes she could become more like him. Ian then asks what her plans are moving forward, and Kathy explains that she intends to seek out Count Katina. Apparently, the Count is her uncle from her mother's side, and she believes that if she explains everything, he will definitely help her. Ian immediately asks whether they were even close, and Kathy admits that they were not exactly distant from each other. Even so, Ian cannot help feeling suspicious, and points out that she should not blindly trust an uncle who was not even especially close to his own sister. Kathy becomes offended immediately and demands to know how Ian could possibly suspect her uncle, insisting that there is nothing in the world he would not do for her. Ian eventually relents and decides that if she trusts him that much, then perhaps she is right after all. The moment he agrees, Kathy suddenly shifts into a teasing mood again and jokes that if a mage as impressive as Ian proposed to her, she would gladly marry him and accompany him to the Count as his wife. Ian immediately shuts the idea down and reminds her that their agreement ends the moment they safely reach the Count. Kathy pouts and calls him cruel for rejecting a noblewoman willing to marry him, but Ian casually replies that there are plenty of women in the world besides her. Kathy instantly grows irritated by that answer and storms ahead toward the inn in frustration. When they finally arrive at the inn, Ian hands over a bag of gold to the receptionist and pays for a room and a bath for the night. The amount is more than enough for both of them. The receptionist then casually asks whether the girl will also be taking a bath, but the moment Kathy hears that question, she becomes horrified and hurriedly insists that she is perfectly fine without one. Ian initially assumes she simply dislikes bathing and thinks she is already filthy enough to need one badly, but after a moment, he realizes the truth. Public baths in this medieval world are completely exposed, and Kathy is obviously uncomfortable with the idea of bathing publicly in front of strangers. Understanding her hesitation, Ian simply tells the receptionist that he alone will use the bath. Kathy immediately lets out a relieved sigh. Unfortunately, while this conversation takes place, 3 suspicious people sitting nearby quietly observe Kathy the entire time. Ian notices their stares at once and instantly becomes protective. He quickly tells Kathy to pull her robe tighter because people are watching her too closely, and he does the same himself to avoid attracting further attention. However, by that point, it is already too late because those strangers have clearly fixed their eyes on Kathy and have no intention of forgetting her face now. On the other hand, the men watching Kathy are entertaining disgusting thoughts about her. It is the first time they have ever seen someone as beautiful as her, and to them she looks almost like an angel descended from heaven itself. What irritates them even more is the fact that she is traveling beside a skinny black-haired boy like Ian, and in their minds someone like him does not deserve to be near a woman like her. They exchange mischievous glances with one another and quickly come to the conclusion that since Ian and Kathy are clearly not planning to stay at the inn for very long, they need to act immediately if they want a chance to take her for themselves. Their intentions are vile from the very beginning, and they decide that today is their only opportunity to make their move. While they continue plotting among themselves, elsewhere inside the castle, the Lord of Riverville is speaking with Leek. During the conversation, Leek suddenly realizes that this is a perfect opportunity to earn the Lord's favor and perhaps secure a safe stay within the castle itself. Because of that, he begins flattering the Lord heavily, praising him until the man grows visibly pleased and arrogant from all the compliments. Once he feels the timing is right, Leek finally reveals that during their travels they encountered a mage. He excitedly explains everything from how the mage managed to tame a dragon to how he saved every single one of them from a terrible fate. Leek even reveals that the mage is currently staying at an inn within the town itself. The moment the Lord hears this, his expression changes completely, because instead of excitement, he feels immediate dread. He thinks about how disastrous it would be if such an unpredictable mage suddenly lost his temper and unleashed a dragon upon his territory. Not only would his people suffer terribly, but the situation is already dangerous enough because another troublesome force is currently stationed within Riverville. That force is the Holy Santiago Knights, a fanatical order devoted entirely to serving God. They fight both as monks and warriors, roaming the land in search of demons and monsters, rather than participating in ordinary wars. They proudly call themselves protectors of humanity, yet the Lord privately considers himself righteous zealots who bring chaos wherever they go. The mere thought of those Santiago Knights crossing paths with a dragon-taming mage terrifies him, because he is certain that if conflict erupts between them, his peaceful little town will be destroyed in the process. Determined to prevent that disaster at all costs, he immediately orders his commanders to prepare a room for Leek, and then commands them to summon the Santiago Knights at once so he can keep both sides separated before anything catastrophic happens. Meanwhile, Ian and Kathy sit together eating breakfast at the inn. After finishing his meal, Ian announces that he plans to take a bath and casually tells Kathy to head upstairs to the second floor once she is done eating. The moment she is left alone, one of the suspicious men sees his chance and quietly follows after her as she walks through the inn by herself. He suddenly approaches her and claims that the black-haired boy sent him to escort her immediately to the docks because there is an urgent matter waiting there. He explains that Ian is currently in the bath and asked him to bring her over as quickly as possible. Kathy, naturally kind and already anxious because of the danger surrounding her, instantly believes him. Her thoughts immediately jump toward the possibility that the bandits have returned to kidnap her again, so she hurriedly follows after the stranger without questioning him further. However, when she catches sight of Ian peacefully bathing, she instantly realizes that something is terribly wrong. Unfortunately, by the time that realization reaches her, it is already too late because someone suddenly throws a cloak over her face. Ian notices the movement immediately, and just as one of the men attempts to attack him, the man suddenly loses his footing and crashes down because of Ian's magic. In that instant, Ian realizes that this situation does not resemble the schemes of Lucy's fiancé at all. This is something entirely different, and worst of all, Kathy is being kidnapped right in front of him. Without hesitation, Ian uses his light magic to create an illusion around himself. He possesses many strange abilities and mysteries that he can draw upon, and for now light is the easiest one to use. Yet at that very moment, something unexpected happens. Shadows begin creeping toward him as if alive, almost inviting him to play alongside them. When Ian opens his eyes again, he suddenly realizes that darkness itself has become his new ally. Instantly, he gathers the shadows around him and unleashes them upon the kidnappers. Darkness pours from his eyes as the shadows engulf the men completely. However, before he can continue, he notices that reinforcements are arriving nearby, and he cannot believe that common criminals would possess such organized backup. As he violently demands to know where they took Kathy, the terrified man admits that he genuinely does not know. Suddenly, Ian feels the cold edge of a sword pressed against his back. A stern voice orders him to stand aside while another man questions him about the darkness from earlier and asks whether Ian was the one controlling it. At that moment, Ian realizes exactly who has arrived, because standing behind him are the warriors of the Holy Santiago Knights. Ian confirms without hesitation that he is indeed the mage who summoned the darkness. Although while speaking he cannot stop thinking about the terrifying old man standing before him, because the sheer bloodlust radiating from him is overwhelming. The criminal immediately begins begging the knights to save him and shamelessly lies that the mage suddenly tried to kill him for no reason at all. Ian stares at him in disbelief, unable to comprehend how casually the man twists the truth. The old knight narrows his eyes and re-dietrichs that if Ian truly is a mage, then such murderous intent is entirely believable. Hearing that instantly irritates Ian, but the old man continues speaking and claims that mages are all the same because they possess dangerous bloodlust and believe they can do whatever they please without consequences. Ian takes deep offense to those words and anger begins rising inside him. However, before he can respond properly, the old man speaks with such authority that Ian realizes something important about this world. Here, having a foul mouth and overwhelming presence is often treated as proof of strength and skill. Even so, another knight suddenly steps forward and declares that regardless of Ian's abilities, it does not excuse him for using wicked magic. Ian pauses at those words while the knight explains that surrounding himself with darkness is an act of turning away from the heavens and rejecting the light of the sun. According to him, hiding within darkness is nothing more than the behavior of a coward. Ian thinks carefully for a moment before clearing his throat and calmly arguing back that the laws of heaven allow both day and night to coexist. He then asks them that if heaven truly belongs only to the light, then why does night exist at all? The moment those words leave his mouth, the knights fall into complete existential confusion. Their expressions shift dramatically as they try to process his argument, and soon many of them become strangely fascinated by him because they realize this young mage possesses a level of intelligence far beyond what they expected. Taking advantage of the silence, Ian politely asks them to excuse him because his sister has recently been kidnapped, and he desperately needs to rescue her. Instantly, the knights realize the criminal deceived them from the beginning, and every one of them turns toward the lying man with fury in their eyes. The old knight then orders a man named Dietrich to keep watch over the criminal before marching toward the inn himself. As a form of apology for wasting Ian's valuable time, he declares that he will personally help rescue Ian's sister and ensure her safety. Soon afterward, they arrive at the docks where the remaining kidnappers are attempting to smuggle Kathy away on a boat. She is tightly bound inside a body bag while the men hurry to escape before anyone catches them. The knights instantly recognize what is happening and become furious because the criminals are already preparing to flee. Meanwhile, Ian notices something important about the timing. The sun is beginning to set, and because of that, he realizes he can use his magic far more effectively now. The old knight asks everyone how they should proceed, and insists that for the sake of rescuing the innocent girl, they must work together. The knights become excited at the thought of battle, but Ian quickly warns them that charging directly onto the boat could be extremely dangerous. The old man refuses to back down, and insists that he is willing to do anything necessary to help save her. Ian then explains that he noticed a large hook nearby, and plans to pull the boat back toward the shore somehow. The old knight stares at him in confusion, and asks whether he intends to use shadow magic for such a thing, because he cannot understand how that would even work. Ian casually explains that he possesses introductory knowledge from many different schools of magic, and can use multiple forms of magic instead of specializing in only one. The old knight becomes even more confused because throughout his life, he has only ever seen people dedicate themselves entirely to mastering a single element, rather than several at once. Without wasting more time, Ian suddenly begins chanting in his infamous Moronius language and calls upon the river itself, asking it to create obstacles and force the boat back toward the shore. Almost immediately, the river responds to his command. Powerful currents begin twisting violently, dragging the boat backward while waves crash around it and throw the vessel into chaos. Because of that sudden shift, Ian finally manages to rescue Kathy safely. The moment she is freed, she clings tightly to him in relief. Ian immediately realizes that if she continues acting this affectionately, the old knight will quickly understand that they are definitely not siblings at all. Because of that, he awkwardly hugs her back while secretly thinking about how exhausted he already is. His energy feels dangerously low, and all he wants now is to finally return to the inn and take a peaceful bath. Unfortunately, Ian has no idea yet that in this world, something as simple as enjoying a quiet bath is nearly impossible for him. Meanwhile, back at the castle, an emergency letter suddenly arrives. As it turns out, Bernard, the eldest son of Riverville, along with Hansen, the Knight of Riverville, are already rushing toward Ian's location. Both Bernard and Hansen notice the thick smoke rising in the distance and immediately assume that it must be coming from a battle. At once they begin worrying that the Lord's fears may actually be coming true, and that the knights and the mage have already started a full-scale conflict within the region. Hansen secretly thinks that this entire situation is already troublesome enough because he has been forced to drag along the sheltered young master the entire time, and after seeing the expression on Bernard's face, he becomes even more convinced that bringing him here was a terrible idea. He is exhausted from constantly babysitting a spoiled child like him. However, when they finally rush toward the source of the smoke, they discover that it is not coming from a battle at all. Instead, the knights are actually assisting Ian while he takes a bath in the open, something that leaves Ian himself extremely uncomfortable and nervous. Bernard and Hansen burst into the scene immediately, and Hansen quickly tells the young master to stop where he is. The moment he realizes that nothing dangerous is happening and that it is literally just a bath, both of them stand there utterly dumbfounded. Neither of them can understand how anyone could casually bathe outside in the open like this. Even so, Bernard remains suspicious and convinces himself that there must be something deeper going on beneath the surface. He begins looking around intensely for any hidden meaning or secret behind the situation. Suddenly, he starts shouting loudly that as the son of the Lord of Riverville, he has every right to receive a complete explanation about everything happening here and demands that someone brief him in full detail. He immediately throws a childish tantrum while Ian watches the entire scene with an increasingly uncomfortable expression. The old knight, whose name is Elder, calmly says that he will explain the situation, but Bernard arrogantly cuts him off and snaps that he was not asking Elder anything because he wanted Ian himself to answer. His disrespect toward Elder is obvious as well. Bernard then proudly introduces himself as the heir of the family before rudely ordering Ian to get out of the bath and show proper respect toward him. Ian immediately realizes that this behavior resembles something Kathy once told him about. In this world, nobles apparently practice a strange tradition known as mage baiting. It is a custom where nobles intentionally provoke mages in order to test their power and temperament. If a mage silently tolerates the insults, then people view them as weak. But if the mage reacts fiercely with anger, then they are acknowledged as truly powerful. Realizing that Bernard is likely trying to provoke him intentionally, Ian refuses to obey his demands. Bernard instantly explodes into another fit of rage and screams about how Ian dares to defy a noble like him. Ian fires back calmly that he has no obligation to listen to a spoiled little boy. Furious beyond belief, Bernard orders his knight to capture the mage immediately, although the knight himself appears more interested in trying to calm the brat down than actually attacking Ian. At that point, Ian decides that enough is enough. He admits to himself that he could tolerate the childish provocation earlier, but being treated like a fraud crosses the line completely. Rising from the bath, he unleashes both his dark magic and light magic at once, causing trash bins, axes, and nearby objects to float ominously into the air around him. Hansen quickly tries to smooth things over by apologizing for the young master's disrespect and assuring Ian that they fully understand his strength now. Ian finally relaxes slightly because he believes this display should be enough to make Bernard back down. Unfortunately, he is completely wrong because the child immediately erupts into yet another tantrum. This time Ian genuinely begins fearing that the spoiled noble might actually try to have him executed, leaving him with little choice but to cooperate for now. The following day, Ian visits the castle where the Lord of Riverville personally shares tea with him and apologizes for the trouble caused by his son's behavior. Ian politely replies that he should be the one apologizing because he may have taken things too far himself. The Lord then asks whether Ian arrived together with his companion, but Ian explains that she currently has other matters to attend to and remains at the inn for the moment. In reality, he knows that Kathy is staying under the protection of the knights for her own safety. The conversation soon shifts toward Ian's background, and the Lord asks about the name of Ian's master. Ian answers that his master is Lord Elidith, and the Lord of Riverville immediately recognizes the name. He explains that Elidith is known as one of the rising stars of the Academy. Curious, he asks whether Ian's master has ever spoken about the South, where the Magic Academy itself is located. Their discussion then drifts toward politics, as the Lord asks whether Ian plans to travel toward the Principality of Palgar or the Principality of Roxelin. Ian admits that he has no idea what those places even are, causing the Lord to explain that tensions between the two territories have been growing increasingly dangerous lately. Apparently, the Principality of Palgar has begun setting its sights upon Roxelin, and Ian quickly realizes that this likely means war may soon erupt between the nations. The Lord then asks whether Ian himself plans to head south as well, but Ian explains that he is actually traveling east because he is searching for a certain mystery. Hearing this, the Lord decides to offer him a gift. Ian becomes confused when a chest is suddenly placed in front of him. The Lord encourages him to open it, and when Ian does, he discovers a staff resting inside. The Lord explains that the staff once belonged to a renowned aeromancer, and that it is called Wing's Gate. Ian carefully picks it up and instantly notices how perfectly it seems to suit him. Although it looks like nothing more than an ordinary staff on the outside, holding it strangely feels like finally obtaining the perfect prop for a real mage. Even so, he genuinely appreciates the gesture. The Lord explains that this should be considered a token of gratitude for forgiving his son's outrageous behavior. Ian sincerely thanks him and happily accepts the gift. However, the moment he returns from the meeting, he suddenly hears someone desperately screaming his name. Ian instantly becomes alert. Kathy rushes toward him in panic and announces that something terrible has happened. Then she reveals a raven that has become trapped by her. Seeing that it is only a crow, Ian finally calms down and Kathy smiles in relief. The old man explains that a hunter caught the bird earlier that morning and was planning to cook and eat it, but Kathy stopped him and took the crow away before he could do anything. Ian realizes that Kathy is completely serious as she explains that, to her, the bird reminds her of Ian because they both have black hair, and somehow it feels like fate itself brought the crow to them, so she could never allow someone to eat a raven like that. Kathy is practically glowing with excitement while Ian apologizes to the old man for all the trouble she has caused and casually tells them that they should just go ahead and eat it anyway. Hearing this completely crushes Kathy, and she cannot believe how cold he is toward such a helpless creature. While Ian tries to calm her down, the knights are already pleased at the thought of getting an easy lunch out of it. Then suddenly Ian hears a voice begging him to save it. He immediately tells the others to stop for a moment before carefully picking up the raven, only to realize that the creature is desperately pleading for help. Ian begins speaking to the raven and quickly notices that even though the bird cannot understand his words, he can somehow understand the raven perfectly. He realizes that the Moronius language does not work properly here, possibly because the creature lacks enough mystery for the magic to connect completely. He tries concentrating harder, but the raven keeps panicking and repeating itself over and over again until Ian finally snaps and angrily tells it to shut up because he is already going to save it and does not need to hear the same desperate plea 100 more times. The raven instantly goes silent, and Ian thinks that even if the crow cannot understand his language properly, it definitely knows when to read the mood and stay quiet. The knights stare at him in disbelief because the mage is casually speaking to a crow as if it were another human being. Ian explains that the raven is begging him for help, and Kathy becomes overjoyed because now her beloved crow is going to survive. She beams happily and says that she knew from the beginning that the bird was special. Elder comments that the young lady seems capable of sensing mysteries in the same way Ian can, and Kathy becomes even happier hearing herself compared to him. Ian then carefully heals the crow's broken wing, and Kathy happily says that now the injury should recover quickly. After that, she asks what they are going to do with the bird, because if they simply return it to the hunters, it will just end up getting eaten anyway and saving it would have meant nothing. Ian thinks quietly for a moment while looking into the crow's eyes, and the raven once again begs him not to abandon it because the humans around here are terrifying. Even though Ian thinks the creature is unbelievably annoying, he still sighs and places it on his shoulder. Kathy immediately asks if they are really taking it with them, and Ian replies that they are, at least until its wing fully heals. Kathy lights up with excitement and insists that they need to give it a proper name. She throws out several suggestions, but Ian dislikes every single one of them, so eventually he decides on the name Oberon. Kathy immediately loves it, and from that moment onward the crow becomes known as Oberon. The bird proudly declares that they may now bask in the honor of serving him, and Ian instantly thinks that the crow is already becoming far too cheeky for its own good. Kathy then suggests that perhaps they should continue traveling together with the knights, because she has realized it would be much safer than wandering around alone as only the two of them. Ian thinks about her words carefully and realizes that she does have a point because ordinary bandits would never dare attack a group protected by the Knights of Santiago. Still, he wonders whether it would even help them if the knights are not heading toward the same destination. Before he can think any further, Elder walks over and asks why they both look so worried. As he sits beside them, he explains that regardless of how talented Ian may be as a mage, traveling alone with a woman is still extremely dangerous. Because of that, he proposes a deal regarding a dangerous monster that has recently appeared within Count Katina's territory. Elder explains that while traveling there, the knights plan to hunt down a creature known as the Manticore, a brutal magical beast infamous for slaughtering humans simply for pleasure. Surprisingly, Ian already recognizes the name and asks whether Elder truly expects his help against something that dangerous. Elder quickly explains that they do not actually want to force him into combat, and would never drag him into danger against his will. Although if Ian voluntarily wishes to help them, nobody would stop him. Ian immediately refuses, because he has no intention of risking his life against a horrifying monster like that. However, Elder quickly stops him and clarifies that the real reason they need him is something entirely different. He explains that when the Order announced their intention to hunt the Manticore, a priest from Count Katina's territory practically forced a local mage to cooperate with them. Naturally, the mage became deeply offended by this treatment, and now the knights want Ian to smooth things over. Since Ian is also a mage, Elder believes his words would carry far more weight than anything the knights themselves could say. Ian considers the proposal carefully and realizes that it is not actually a terrible arrangement. If all he has to do is calm down one irritated mage, then in exchange they gain protection and escort from an entire knightly order, which could be extremely useful for both him and Kathy. Eventually he accepts the offer. Soon afterward they continue their journey together, and Ian quickly realizes that traveling alongside the Knights of Santiago is surprisingly comfortable. The members of the Order are disciplined men with strong principles, and compared to the chaos he usually experiences, the journey becomes almost stress-free. Still, if he has one complaint, it is that nearly every single knight constantly tries to convert both him and Kathy into their religion. At first the conversations are tolerable, but before long the endless preaching becomes repetitive, exhausting, and irritating, because Ian has no interest in abandoning his own beliefs, simply because someone else insists upon it. Later that night at the campsite, Elder quietly sits beside him and comments that it is a shame. Ian immediately asks what he means by that. Elder explains that if only Ian could hear the voice of God, then perhaps he could become a cleric for the Order. He explains that clerics are essentially church mages who wield the mystery of faith itself. Ian thinks deeply about those words and wonders if someone could truly speak to God. Then perhaps he could finally ask about his strange status window and the reason he was reincarnated into this world in the first place. Curious now, he approaches Dietrich and asks whether he can study their holy book as well. After some time, Dietrich patiently teaches Ian how to read passages from the Bible and even compliments him for being so open-minded toward their faith. However, Ian suddenly loses interest, and Dietrich notices the strange shift in his expression and asks what is wrong. Ian replies that Dietrich just complimented him a moment ago, yet instantly Dietrich becomes alarmed and insists that he never said anything at all. Confused, Ian swears that he clearly heard a voice speaking directly to him. That is when he suddenly realizes the voice did not sound human in the slightest. Then another strange voice whispers into his ears, calmly suggesting that perhaps the speaker is not a being that could even be called human at all. And Ian is left completely confused about what exactly is happening to him. Ian realizes that the voice speaking inside his head might actually be the one who brought him here, so he immediately shouts and demands an answer. He keeps piling up questions, asking the supposed creator about the status window and why he was thrown into this world right after he had barely graduated. As his irritation keeps rising, a sudden gust of wind passes through, and just like that it feels as if the mysterious creator has already left without responding. Our guy gets frustrated and starts going off, demanding that she come back and answer him properly. Meanwhile, the Santiago Knights struggle to hold him back as they practically beg him to calm down. A moment later, Ian suddenly gets an idea and quickly flips through the divine book, hoping it might give him another chance to reach that voice again. As he continues reading, the status window suddenly appears with a notification, informing him that he has acquired a new skill called Holy Arts. It states that this skill will allow him to communicate with the creator of this world. Right after that, more notifications begin to flood in, telling him to show greater interest if he wants to satisfy the creator. Seeing all this, Ian begins to question whether the owner of that voice is truly the one who dragged him into this world and granted him this ability. The more he thinks about it, the more he feels like some kind of puppet being controlled and laughed at. He wants to rush things and confront her directly, but his holy arts level is still too low to start any real conversation. In the end, he gives up for now, deciding that he will have to uncover more mysteries and gather enough points to level up his holy arts. A few days pass during their journey, and at one point a group of bandits tries to ambush them. The knights handle the weak amateurs without much trouble and then check on Ian, asking if he is fine. Ian responds that he is safe and asks the elder if he is alright, since they were the ones actually doing all of the fighting. The elder laughs it off and says that no matter how much of a geezer he turns into, he is still not going to lose to some amateur bandits. Ian takes the chance to ask him more about his past and brings up that he has heard he used to be a mercenary. The elder admits it and says that even if he looks like an old man now, he was once a hotshot known all around. He explains that he had to start using the alias Elder because whenever people heard his real name, they would come after him just to gain attention and make a name for themselves. Hearing this, Ian starts wondering if the man really was that famous. After the bandits are taken care of, one of the knights reports to the elder and informs him that the road ahead splits into two paths. He explains that the eastern path leads to the Count's castle, while the western path goes toward the Manticore area. The old man then tells Ian that the mage he mentioned lives somewhere near the Manticore area and points in that direction, asking him to hurry. Ian stops the group for a moment and suggests to Kathy that they should first go meet the mage before heading to the Count's place. Lucy immediately refuses and says she will go alone instead. Ian gets concerned and asks if she will be alright on her own. She smiles and responds that she is not a child, and she is confident that the eastern path will take her straight to her uncle's place. She waves goodbye and leaves without hesitation. Watching her go so casually makes Ian uneasy as he wonders if she will really be fine. He then decides to deal with the mage as quickly as possible so he can check on her before anything goes wrong. The old man asks the boy why his sister left without him, but Ian simply replies that he will catch up to her soon and quickly shifts the topic back to the mage. The old man leans over Ian's shoulder and asks if he is mentally prepared to face what is coming. He tries to scare him by explaining how dangerous mages can be, and adds that the one they are about to meet is already upset because of the order. Ian questions why the knights are the ones cleaning up the order's mess, and the old man casually replies that they are paid a heavy amount for it. That answer makes Ian realize why all the knights are wearing such shiny and expensive armor. Then, the old man shows a bit of sympathy and reassures him that since Ian is also a mage, the other mage might calm down once she sees his face. Ian starts wondering what kind of person she might be, since this will be his first time meeting a mage other than his master. Meanwhile, the female mage named Monty Campbell, who looks more like an unpleasant witch, is seen stirring a pot of soup. The scene shifts back to some time earlier, when the Order approached her and asked for her magic to help capture the Manticore. The Order behaved rudely and told her to feel grateful since the forest was under their control. This attitude makes Monty angry, and instead she offers them a chance to try her cooking if they want her help. She uses the horrible smell of her soup to scare them off, and it ends up working. As the story shifts back to the present, the knights and Ian arrive close to the witch's place. The elder informs him that the mage they are about to meet is Manny Campbell and introduces her as a well-known plant sorcerer. He continues by explaining that she can control plants freely and is even capable of brewing extremely deadly poisons from them. The elder then adds that the real reason they came here is to obtain her poison, which they need in order to hunt down the manticore. Just then, a terrible smell spreads through the air, making the knights quickly cover their noses in disgust. Mani appears, laughing in a casual yet wicked manner, and says that she has been waiting for them and is pleased to see that they actually return to try her delicious soup. She presents them with a bowl of her chicken garlic soup that smells awful and clearly dangerous. The knights keep their noses covered while reluctantly holding the foul-smelling bowls in their hands. When the elder tries to explain that they did not come here to test her strength through such a dish, Mani responds that her rare meal is made from the finest ingredients she personally harvested. She then tells them that they are free to leave if they do not wish to accept her hospitality and taste her cooking. While the knights struggle and even start vomiting from the smell and taste, Ian casually drinks the soup in large gulps, finishing one bowl after another without hesitation. Apparently, he ends up liking the taste so much that he cannot stop himself from eating more of it. The witch grows concerned as she watches him keep devouring her poisonous-looking dish without slowing down at all. When Ian calmly tells the lady mage that it actually tastes good, Mani finds it hard to believe what she is hearing. Ian goes on to mention that he really likes the amount of garlic she added into the soup and continues eating it without any hesitation. Mani and the knights start getting uneasy at this sight, and she quickly steps closer to him and insists that it is enough. She admits that in her 40 years of being a plant sorcerer, she has never come across someone this ridiculous, then directly asks him for his name. As soon as Ian reveals his name, Manny gets clearly startled and rushes to confirm if he is truly the apprentice of the pyromancer Elidith. She immediately apologizes for how she treated him earlier, and to fix her image, she prepares a proper luxurious meal for him and the knights right away. Ian still prefers the chicken soup, but he chooses to go along with the situation instead of making a fuss about it. Mani then shifts into a more serious tone and asks if they are planning to hunt the manticore. She warns them that it is a dangerous task, reminding them how the winged beast has already wiped out several hunters who were previously sent by Count Karina. The old man responds that he is more than ready for the task. Seeing his confidence, the witch asks him if he has ever defeated a manticore before. The old man nods and replies that he has, but it was long ago back in his younger days. She then turns to Ian and asks if he has ever faced one himself, adding that she expects him to be a proper mage considering he was trained by a legendary pyromancer. She goes on to request Ian to lend his help to the knights as well. Hearing this, our boy drifts into his thoughts. He recalls how his master once taught him that a mage should involve himself in people's problems, even if it goes against his own wishes, and that such matters should always be taken seriously. As he reflects on those words, Ian also feels that there is no real reason for him to go out of his way to hunt a dangerous winged lion. However, the thought of refusing the request and having rumors spread about him in the mage circle starts to make him hesitate. The mage circle is an organization formed to maintain proper use of mysteries, and Ian does not want to damage his standing there. He worries that turning this down might anger his master, and could even lead to other mages refusing to help him when he needs them. Seeing that he has no other choice, Ian agrees to accompany them on the hunt. The next day, he travels with Mani and the knights toward the forest, while also hoping that Kathy will be fine on her own. As he is thinking about Kathy, his pet crow Oberon returns and informs him that he has located the winged lion, pointing out the exact direction it is in. When Ian reports this to the old man, he becomes impressed at how Ian is using crows for scouting. During their journey, Ian has managed to get Oberon accustomed to human speech, allowing him to communicate directly. As they move closer, the Santiago Knights leader starts feeling a strange pressure in the air and becomes more alert. Ian then asks if the old man can try persuading the manticore since it is also technically a monster. The old man has no idea how to respond, while Mani immediately disagrees and says the winged lion is not something that can be reasoned with easily. She gets slightly panicked and asks what Ian knows about summoning, warning him that she will report him to his master if he actually tries anything like that. Ian briefly wonders if he should at least be getting some kind of praise for his efforts instead. Just then, one of the knights points in a direction and informs them that they have finally encountered the monster. Everyone turns still like statues, not daring to move even a little. Our boy tells the others not to twitch at all and to stay close to him. Just then, Dietrich walks up to the old man and says the poison weapons are ready, handing over several arrows coated in the deadly liquid. The knight leader then orders his men to fire, and a volley of arrows shoots past him. Meanwhile, Ian watches the entire situation unfold without saying a word. As the poison-tipped arrows fly forward, our hero suddenly becomes alert. The projectiles bounce off the monster's skin without leaving even a small mark. He quickly shares this info with the old man, who grabs his head in frustration, while Dietrich asks what they should do next. Just as he is about to order another attack, evil laughter spreads across the area, and the monster finally reveals itself. Poor Oberon looks like he is about to collapse from fear. Ian realizes that now that the monster is right in front of them, there is no time to prepare the poison arrows again. Seeing no other choice, he looks up at the sky and lets out a powerful roar using Moronius. Everyone falls silent while Mani notes that the boy actually managed to pull it off. Even the manticore stops moving, and the two stand facing each other. The monster gets interested that a human can speak his language and says that Ian is not like the others. Forcing himself to stay steady, our boy keeps up a polite tone and introduces himself. However, the monster immediately cuts him off and tells him to shut up and drown in a puddle. Hearing that, Ian drops the polite act and asks what kind of abomination he even is. The manticore seems pleased by the direct response and says that it is more like it. He tells the human to be straightforward and just ask if he wants to know something. Matching that tone, Ian says that he wants the monster's head. The answer makes the creature laugh out loud, saying that he likes him. He then offers the mage a deal, telling him to join forces with him and tear those filthy humans apart. The idea shocks Ian, while the manticore keeps talking about how he will enjoy the taste of human flesh. He tells the boy he can have as many women as he wants, and after he is done, the manticore will eat them too. The monster starts getting excited by the thought, but our boy cuts him off with a disappointed sigh. Spitting on the ground in front of the creature, he says the idea is too disgusting to even consider. Our boy and Oberon both raise their middle fingers and throw out insults that would make his mother have a heart attack. Dietrich tries to speak while clearly nervous, but gets cut off as the manticore squares up, ready to fight. Switching to English, he thrusts his paw forward like a spear and declares that Ian is a human worthy of being killed by him. Our hero is more shocked that the monster can speak in the common language and freezes in surprise. Mani quickly reacts and casts a spell, stomping her foot on the ground. Plants begin growing rapidly, forming massive vines that rise up like a wall and separate the beast from them. However, the old man does not calm down, and instead starts scolding Mani for her actions. She looks confused and says she trapped the monster, but the old man reminds her that his men are trapped as well. She pauses for a moment before arguing back that the knights are not helpless and will manage somehow. Suddenly, the old man freezes as he hears a scream from the other side of the wall. Worried for his men, he runs off, while the two call out for him to stop. A short while later, they reach the spot, and he immediately asks if everyone is still alive. The mood turns serious as a knight says they survived, but Dietrich is badly injured. Lying there in pain, the loyal knight apologizes for letting the monster escape, but the Santiago Knights leader cuts him off and holds him tightly. Ian feels close to breaking down and clenches his fists tightly. After being reborn, he never expected to see someone die right in front of him, especially someone like Dietrich. Past memories start flashing through his mind as he struggles to accept how real everything feels. It finally becomes clear to him that in this world, monsters and war are normal. The deaths he once only read about in stories are now happening in front of his eyes. Refusing to stand there doing nothing, he adjusts his cloak and walks toward his fallen ally. Kneeling beside him, he asks Dietrich if he remembers what he was taught during Bible study, that if someone truly believes and prays with sincerity, the heavens will find a way. The words bring tears to the knight's eyes as he answers yes. Ian then says they should pray together, as a blue light begins to spread around them. In his mind, he calls out to the heavens, saying that their devoted follower is dying helplessly in front of them and asking if they will do nothing. A voice answers that his call has been heard and offers to do something since Ian asked so nicely. The entire area fills with the blue light, temporarily blinding everyone. The old man calls out to him, but then trails off before he can finish. Meanwhile, our hero lets go of his comrade's hand and looks at his own, unsure of what is happening. The scene then shifts to a bright, ethereal place, where a voice calls out to Dietrich and tells him to wake up. A woman dressed in white extends her hand toward him, which catches him by surprise. The man realizes that this must be the creator he has been praying to all this time. As she comes down and stands before him, she tells him that she is glad to see him here. Dietrich immediately bows his head and feels overwhelmed by what is happening. The Holy Lady tells him that his life's work is not finished yet. He looks confused and repeats her words, trying to understand them. However, the Holy Lady extends her hand again and tells him to spread her message even further and to help those who are in need. Most importantly, she tells the loyal knight that he must help her apostle, Ian. Just then, Dietrich wakes up in the real world to his master calling out his name. He sits up and asks what just happened. Our boy says his name as he walks up to him and asks how it feels to be reborn. The knight immediately starts crying and holds onto Ian's hands tightly. He says that our hero saved him because the creator must have ordered it. Our hero gives a nervous smile and remembers that he was only able to use holy arts because the Holy Lady allowed him to borrow her power. He asks how the knight knew that, and explains that the Holy Lady told him that Dietrich still has much to do in this world. Remembering the words of the great being, the knight shouts in excitement and starts calling Ian a holy apostle. The other knights assume that he might have taken a hit to the head and agree to keep an eye on him for a while. Watching the scene unfold, Mani comments that they seem very cheerful for people who were close to dying just moments ago. Seeing his men back in good condition, the old man asks if they are ready to fight the manticore again. Our hero sends Oberon ahead to scout the area first so they can understand the situation better. The knight leader becomes concerned that something might happen to the bird, but Ian dismisses the worry, leaving him confused. Our hero tells the squad that the manticore is not some run-of-the-mill low-level thug, so they need to be fully prepared to deal with him. The scene then shifts to the manticore, who is busy attacking a nearby town and chasing humans through the streets. A young man is leading his father away from the monster, but the old man suddenly slips and falls to the ground. The son calls out to him, but it is already too late as the manticore moves in for the kill. Before the monster can bite down, the young man grabs a pitchfork and tries to scare him away from his father. He holds the weapon up even though his whole body is shaking badly. The manticore understands that the old man is his father and makes him an offer. He tells the man to kill his own father, and in return, he will spare everyone else in the area. The young man refuses the offer and tells the monster to die. The manticore does not seem bothered by that response at all. He raises his paw high and prepares to slice them apart. The father and son hold on to each other, ready to accept their end. But at that moment, an arrow flies in and strikes the monster in the eye. The Santiago Knights leader rushes forward and deflects the incoming attack, while the manticore screams in pain. The father and son finally get a moment to breathe as the old knight shouts for his men to get ready. The soldiers move in quickly, while the manticore glares at them and shouts that they are rushing toward their deaths. However, Ian calls out to the monster and calls it an idiot. Having mastered the secret arts of rage baiting, he claims the manticore is only delaying his unavoidable defeat. The monster shouts back at him to be quiet, but our hero continues and wonders if this is how a defeated dog sounds. The rage bait works as the manticore charges straight at Ian at full speed. At the last moment, our hero smiles as Mani steps forward and raises her staff. She activates another plant growth spell which wraps the monster tightly in vines. The old man then orders his men to act, and they throw clay bottles at the trapped manticore. The beast becomes even more furious as he gets covered in the strange liquid. Meanwhile, Mani tells Ian that it is his moment to shine now. Our boy steps forward and activates his fire magic with a snap of his fingers. The manticore realizes too late that the liquid is oil, and immediately gets engulfed in flames. His screams slowly die down while Ian shows no reaction, mogging his enemy till he is nothing more than crispy bits. After everything is over, the citizens step forward to show their gratitude to the knights, who calmly claim they only carried out their duty. From the background, our boy throws a cold stare at the Santiago Knights leader, watching the senile old geezer soak in all the praise. Oberon looks at him with innocent eyes and sarcastically asks why his great master is not getting the respect he deserves. He tells the annoying little fluffball to zip it, then wonders if his display of roasting a manticore alive with fire magic actually intimidated the citizens instead. Right then, he is genuinely caught off guard when a young man and his grandfather step forward to thank him for saving their lives. He freezes for a moment, unsure how to react since he never expected anyone to thank him in the first place. A wide smile spreads across the old man's face as he notices that reaction. The knight leader suddenly bows in gratitude to the mighty mage who saved everyone from the big, bad manticore. Ian awkwardly responds that he only followed Mani's commands, so there is no need for him to bow like that. That response surprises the knight leader, who did not expect such humility to match his skills and presence. In his experience, kids like him usually grow up into heroes whose reputations make them seem more noble than actual nobles. Soon after, a group of guards approaches the knights and asks if they are the ones responsible for taking down the beast. Instead of answering directly, the Santiago Knights leader demands that the fools state their identities first. The men apologize and explain that they are guards from the Count's castle. Our boy is surprised when they invite both of them directly to the Count's castle. At the Count's mansion, the knights are welcomed with a banquet worthy of their achievement. Lucy's drunk uncle loudly praises their strong sense of justice, applauding them for fearlessly slaying such a dangerous, unholy beast. The old man grins and casually claims it was nothing special for warriors of their level. His words clearly make the Count a little jealous, wishing he had guards like them protecting his estate. Man ignores the fact that his own guards are standing right there listening. Next, he starts buttering up the witch, promising he will do everything in his power to make sure no priests ever step foot in her forest again. Then his expression suddenly turns serious as he looks at Ian, mentioning he has heard quite a lot about him from his niece. The man is left stunned when he sees the kid is far too busy stuffing his face with meat and bread to even notice he is being addressed. When his little buddy finally points out that the important-looking man is speaking to him, Ian throws a cold stare at the scumbag who just interrupted his 3-course gourmet meal. Firmly grabbing a loaf of bread like it belongs to him, he casually apologizes for not paying attention because the food is simply too good to ignore. Hearing that, the Count pretends to overlook his earlier disrespect. Instead, the man applauds him for keeping Lucy safe. As a reward, he orders his butler to open a chest. Inside, there is a brightly glowing magic scroll inside. It is said that powerful spells are inscribed onto such scrolls, which release their stored magic the moment they are torn. Seeing such a rare item right in front of him, our hero is completely dazzled. Holding the fine paper in his hands, he carefully observes the inscriptions written across it. The Count smirks and asks if the gift he arranged specifically for him meets his expectations. Our hero expresses his gratitude for such an incredible reward, but the Count replies that it is only fitting for the hero who safely brought back his precious Lucy. With a snap of his fingers, the doors to the banquet hall swing open. Right then, the noble girl walks in wearing a beautiful dress, along with a ridiculously long magician's hat, half her height. That goofy awe hat nearly makes our guy choke as he struggles to hold back his laughter. As Lucy takes a seat beside her uncle, he wonders where she even found such a ridiculous cosplay piece. Shyly locking eyes with her hero, Lucy softly asks how he has been. After watching the way the two look at each other for just a second, the knight's leader teasingly reminds him that he once called her his sister. Judging from her expression, she sees him as something more than that. Moving forward, the Count offers a proposal to our magician. He wants Ian to accompany Lucy on her mission to take revenge on the bastards who hurt her. The Count firmly requests that he join his men to ensure the mission's success. Our boy quickly realizes that the magic scroll was not exactly a free reward. It was clearly bait, meant to pressure him into accepting the offer. Still, a mage's role of casting spells from the backline is not too dangerous, so he is not completely against the idea. On top of that, if things go well, he could earn a hefty reward from Lucy and her uncle. Staying humble as always, he agrees if they believe a lowly mage like him can be of help, then he will join them. 3 days later, everyone, including Lucy, gathers outside the Count's mansion. Lucy explains that the Count is busy with preparations, but he will give them a grand welcome once they return. The Santiago Knights leader simply smiles and says he is looking forward to it. Meanwhile, our boy feels annoyed that their squad lost several capable men, all thanks to the Count shamelessly bribing them away with his treasures. Right then, the old man suddenly thanks him for sticking by his side the entire time. He promises that he has a surprise waiting for him when he visits Trifar Island. Seeing him confused by the unfamiliar name, the leader explains that it is a floating island in the Coral Sea, and the locals will welcome him warmly if he mentions the name Salvador. Surprised, Ian asks if Salvador is actually his name. Deciding it is finally time to reveal it, the elder calmly states that his name is Salvador, and he hails from the Orcus family. While Ian does not immediately grasp the importance, Lucy instantly recognizes the name Salvador of the White Wolves. The old man lets out a humble, amused laugh at his old title. Meanwhile, our boy stands there feeling completely left out of the conversation. Realizing he is clueless, Lucy explains to the moron that he is standing before the former leader of the Emperor's private mercenary team, the White Wolves. Their leader was so skilled with the sword that rumors say the Emperor himself granted him the title of Swordmaster. That means they are currently in the presence of a living legend. Oberon and Ian don't give a duck, however, both staring blankly like it is no big deal. Shocked by their reaction, Lucy hypes the old man up. She is confused why he is not losing his mind and doing backflips over breathing the same oxygen as someone of that level. On the other hand, Salvador does not look too surprised by Ian's dull reaction, since he more or less expected it. Even so, he does enjoy when people flock around him and go crazy after learning his true identity. With that, the Swordmaster and the witch prepare to depart. One of the knights grabs our boy's hands. He overly emotional as he asks if they will ever meet again. Before they leave, Salvador shakes Ian's hand and promises to meet him again on the floating island. The old man then wishes him safe travels until that day comes. Later, the Count steps onto a stage to address his army. Each step feels heavier than the last as memories of his niece's request to avenge her mother run through his mind. Never in his wildest imagination did he expect Grime to make a move on Lucy after what he had already done to her mother. Even so, marrying Lucy off to one of his trusted retainers would turn her into a powerful political shield. His territory would become far more secure, and he would gain more control over the barony. With that in mind, the sly man plans to have a private talk with his niece once things calm down. After that, the Count delivers a powerful speech, firing up his soldiers to put an end to the injustice and crimes carried out by Grime. Later that night, the knights set up camp. Some of them, including Lucy, are genuinely confused. They wonder if he hit his head somewhere along the way. Instead of cooking food, he is just sitting there boiling his spoon. The noble girl tries not to judge and wonders if he comes from some poor place where spoons are a delicacy. A few knights in the distance start spreading rumors that the master mage is a crazy who drinks spoon soup. Irritated, our boy tells Lucy that he is disinfecting the spoon. The big word flies straight over Birdbrain's head. He then brushes it off, saying it is too complicated for her to understand anyway. That only makes the knights more curious, thinking he is preparing some mysterious and delicious dish. They end up annoying him even more by asking if they can add their meat into his special soup. After dinner, Lucy admits she has been thinking about something for a while, but she is still unsure. When he asks what she means, she reminds him about the reward she promised earlier. The noble girl looks completely lost when deciding what to give him, saying he is probably tired of receiving gold coins all the time. The broke guy is left speechless, but he lets her continue talking about a reward she believes is truly worthy of someone like him. She shares a legend that says the fairies once gifted the first Baron of Tarion a magic sword. Apparently that fairy fell in love with him after he saved their realm. Lucy is completely enchanted by her ancestor's story, but Ian is not buying that low-tier romance tale at all. He questions why the Tarian family was never granted a higher title than Baron if they possess such a legendary weapon. That instantly cracks her little fantasy, and she awkwardly admits that all of this happened hundreds of years ago. Then she adds that there is just one teeny tiny problem standing between her and the sword. It is buried inside the first Baron's grave, which means they would have to rob it to get their hands on it. Shocked, our boy just stares at the unhinged girl who casually expects him, a complete outsider, to rob her own great-great-grandfather's grave. Even then, he asks if she is really fine with giving away such a priceless family treasure, since her family could clearly use it to strengthen their barony's reputation. He tries to convince her that there are better ways to use it, but Lucy just pouts in anger. The noble girl snaps, explaining that he gave her a second chance to fight back. Her hands tremble as she says everything he did changed her life, so he deserves a reward of equal value. She stands up, embarrassed and clearly upset that he is making light of something she put so much thought into. Calling him a dense dum-dum, she storms back to her tent. After hearing all that, the guy with the IQ of a rice cooker realizes he should have handled that better. Right then, a red-headed knight calls out to him, asking if he can have a moment of his time. At the same time, a farmer nearby threatens to beat the life out of some knights if they dare steal from him. The scummy dirtbags mock him, saying they might consider leaving if he hands over a few chickens. One of them jabs a finger into his chest, claiming that knights marching to war cannot survive without food to fuel them. However, his arrogance disappears the moment he spots a crow landing on a nearby tree branch. He immediately recognizes it as the Master Magician's pet. Out of nowhere, Oberon starts warning them that the Master is coming. While the three idiots are still shocked that the crow can talk, our boy casually greets them from behind. The trembling trio slowly turns around with stiff expressions, instantly realizing they are screwed. Our boy coldly asks what the hell they think they are doing. You see, he had a meeting with the Count before they were deployed. The Count's hesitation made him think the request would be something serious. But to his surprise, the man simply asked him for a favor. He needs to deal with his poorly disciplined mercenaries who go around robbing citizens. Our boy is confused, because that sounds more like a job for the knights. The Count lets out a deep sigh and explains that the knights and mercenaries are too close. They are brothers in arms, so they cover up each other's crimes. At first, he let it slide since it kept the mercenaries occupied. But now they have gotten bold, openly stealing, and that too in the territory of his precious niece. He quietly judges the uncle who begged him that night to give them a warning, hoping it would straighten them out. Now standing under his stabbing gaze, the three knights huddle up like conjoined twins. He declares that it is time these stray mutts who dig through trash pay the price for stealing from their own people. The three wets their pants when our master mage says he will cancel their life subscription to set an example. By the next morning, news of his warning spreads everywhere. The mercenaries are so shaken that they refuse to even step outside. His actions makes the Count and his niece happy, relieved that their people can finally feel safe. However, the red-haired knight has bad news. He calls for a direct meeting with the Count to point out a serious flaw in their strategy. The soldier bluntly states that in their current condition, they are nothing more than prey for Grimes' army. Surprised, our boy asks if he really believes that, even with 400 trained soldiers on their side. The knight repeats that they are no longer soldiers, they are harmless prey. He explains that earlier, their men used to pillage Grimes' territories during raids. Their constant looting and oppression would push the citizens to protest against Grime, keeping his forces distracted. But ever since they stopped harassing the civilians under Ian's pressure, the situation has flipped completely. The townsfolk are now calm, there is no unrest, and everything is stable. That means Grime can focus entirely on gathering his forces in the background, putting them at a massive disadvantage. On top of that, ever since the troops were put in line by our Master Mage's punishment, their morale has taken a serious hit. Hearing all this, our protagonist realizes they are stuck in a pretty bad situation. The grim update gives the Count a splitting headache as he struggles to come up with any kind of solution. Running out of options, he turns to our hero for help. They cannot afford to lose this war, or the usurper might take everything this time. With a worried look, Lucy also turns to him full of expectation. Even under that pressure, he calmly argues that the situation is not completely hopeless when he's around. His reassuring words instantly lift their spirits, making both uncle and niece eager to hear the master speak. At the same time, the soldiers standing behind the red-haired knight glare at him like he just slapped their mom. The suspicious duo clearly do not trust his overconfident attitude and look like they are plotting something on the side. The next morning, our boy heads to a farmer's house. The farmer starts yelling at the visitor and his annoying crow, who keeps making noise outside his door. The moment he opens it, our boy steps right into his face with a dead-eyed stare that scares the life out of him. In a strong voice, he demands to know if the man owns the wheat field. Confused and annoyed, the farmer snaps back, asking him to reveal his identity first. A nearby knight quickly introduces him as the apprentice of the master mage Elidith, Lord Ian. That instantly drains the color from the farmer's face, who realizes he insulted a lord. He immediately drops to the ground, pressing his fat mug into the dirt while begging Lord Ian to forgive his ignorance. With the stage set, our protagonist smoothly moves to the next step of his plan. He declares that the crops are already doomed, leaving the poor farmer desperate for an explanation. Slamming his staff hard into the ground, he roars that the curse of the first Baron of Tarion has befallen his wheat. Fully committing to the act, he lowers his voice and explains that the curse strikes any land that was taken from the rightful owner. Thinking his entire livelihood is about to vanish, the farmer desperately begs for a solution, or at least something he can do. Right then, our boy tells him to quiet down. He suddenly acts like he senses something, and his eyes widen in shock like he's receiving a divine DM from heaven. Raising his hands dramatically, he declares that the heavens have revealed the only way to lift the curse. If the rightful heir Lucy Tarion becomes the Baron, the first Baron's anger will finally be put to rest. With that message delivered, he and the knights quickly leave the scene, claiming he has detected another curse nearby. The farmer nearly wets himself as our boy leaves, dropping a final warning that the entire land will turn barren under Grime the Usurper's rule. After repeating that same act a few more times in different places, rumors about the curse spread like wildfire among the people. Soon enough, the common folk begin protesting, demanding that Grime step down and let Lucy take the crown so they can be saved from the so-called curse. At the same time, his Galaxy Brain strategy also boosts the army's shattered morale. However, some of the more suspicious soldiers on the inside do not look happy about any of this. Later that evening, they take their complaints directly to the Count. Confused by their strange attitude, the Count demands to know what exactly has them so worked up. The soldiers argue that their master mage played dirty by spreading rumors about their homeland being cursed. They claim it is completely unacceptable to serve under a mage who curses their own land. Baffled by these absolute idiots, our boy asks if they are seriously dumb enough to believe nonsense he made up right in front of them. The morons still push back, saying his shady tactics are exactly why they cannot trust him. At that moment, he realizes his plan backfired. The moment he told one lie, they started treating everything he says like another lie. He lets out a tired sigh, already fed up with the brain-dead complaints these clowns keep throwing at him. At the same time, he understands that the knights are the backbone of their army, so they cannot simply be ignored. One look at the Count's troubled face confirms that the man knows he has to meet their demands to keep their trust. Deciding to make things easier for him, our boy takes the initiative and steps forward. If they do not want an untrustworthy mage around, then he has no problem leaving on his own. The knights are left frustrated, clearly not expecting him to make that move. But then he hits them with another blow. He makes it clear that they should not come crawling back to him for help later.